Hey there, it's Bergeron here with you. And today I thought we would do a bit of a watercolor demonstration. It's kind of a dark, dreary kind of a day out today. So I thought maybe I would sort of paint a dark, dreary kind of a day. And if you want, you can follow along here with me. I'm going to make this a pretty simple, pretty easy painting. But basically I'm taking, dirty water to tell you the truth. I like working with dirty water, but that's me. And then I'm going to take some Payne's Gray here. Okay, this is Payne's Gray watercolor paint. And I'm going to make this pretty thin. By thin, I mean not much pigment and quite a bit of water. And I'm going to just, I'm not going to soak this, but it's going to get pretty quick, pretty close to soaked. And I'm using this brush. You could use a bigger brush like this if you chose. You know, pick up quite a bit of water, quite a bit of pigment, a little bit of dirt on there. That's okay, we'll knock that off. One of the things that you should have on hand all the time with you when you're watercolor painting is either tissue or paper towels. I sort of prefer tissue because it's sort of, well, to tell you the truth, it sucks it up a lot quicker, but paper towel will last quite a bit longer. So we're gonna probably leave that the way it is. I might take a little bit of blue, just a little bit of blue, and introduce that. Use the bigger brush, you'll cover a bigger area. But you can see how I'm not doing little dabby little painting, okay? So, because it's fall, there's not a lot of green around. There is some green, but it's sort of the undergrowth. So what it is I'm gonna do is just gonna put this in sort of like that, okay? And then I want you to get brown or umber, something like that. Now we're working very wet here, as you can see. This is very, very wet. And I'm gonna pick up a little bit of this dark brown. I think this is burnt sienna, I think. And when you sort of get it to the point that you want it at, I like that. I like how that's all blending together there. It's very wet. We're just gonna go with that for now, being very wet. So I'm going to put, I'm gonna get rid of this brush now. And I'm gonna go to this, which is a 1/2 inch flat, and I'm gonna get it wet also. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint some trees that are sort of quite a bit back. So I'm gonna put maybe like a little bit of a bush here. You see how that's bleeding up like that? That's exactly what I'm going for. And then maybe just a little bit of sort of that same kind of bushiness in through there. And we're just letting the paint go wherever it wants to go. And I'm gonna paint in here sort of quite a bit back. I'm gonna pick up some more water. I'm gonna pick up quite a bit of water here and a little bit of pigment. All right, and I'm gonna paint like a pine tree in the back here. Just sort of a misty, like like I'm alluding to a pine tree being back there. Okay, maybe something like that. And then I'm also going to allude to some other trees further back here, like that, and maybe another one over here. But not really, I'm not really painting a tree. I'm just sort of putting in some shapes, okay? Now, once you get it to that point, I need you to walk away. Just leave it, okay? No matter how long it takes for it to dry, don't do anything else to it until this is completely dry. And then we'll come back. See if you can do it. I know you can. Okay, now I've waited a couple of hours and I'll tell you, the paper is still, it's a little bit damp, but it's no longer wet, all right? So if you've waited and you've been patient, you have something that looks like this. Remember, one of the keys to painting with watercolor is just patience, okay? It's just straight up, just patience. Now we're gonna put another couple of trees in the background here, and then we're gonna wait again, all right? So again, I'm gonna take Payne's Gray and water. Not as much water this time. So now this time, we're gonna have a little bit more, pigment, okay? And watch what I'm doing here. I'm just tapping this onto the page. I'm not really painting here. Well, I'm painting, but I'm not really pushing the brush around. I'm just creating these are gonna be some trees that are sort of in the background, quite a ways back. You're just tapping the brush on there. You see, I haven't picked up too much more pigment. And if you think it's too, so if you look at that and you say, that's too dark, you just take a tissue, okay? Lay the tissue on there and lift it off. And you'll see you lift off some of that pigment. Can you see on I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but on my tissue, it's a little bit wet because I've pulled some of that pigment off, okay? So again, we're just gonna create some trees in the background here, or allude to some trees in the background here. And we're gonna keep this very light. These are just gonna be some pine trees that are sort of pushed way back there, and this is maybe, a little, maybe it's a maple tree, I don't know. Again, we're gonna take our tissue, and we're just gonna lift some of that off there. And you can see how those start to look a little ghosty. That's what we're going for here, okay? We're going for these looking a little bit ghosty. Okay, because I want this to be a little bit fall-like, I'm actually gonna wet some of this area back here. Again, with my dirty water. I mean, you can use clean water if you want. I don't know why I started using dirty water. I guess I started using dirty water because I figured I had to create background anyways, and so if I was creating background anyways, then why not make it with some dirty water? Anyways, I'm gonna make up some green here. So I'm gonna take some of this green, okay, and I'm gonna take some yellow, and I'm gonna mix it up in here. But I want this to be a little bit yellowier. Okay, I'm kind of going for fall colors. Fall doesn't have a lot of green in it, but there is still some green. So I'm gonna take that, maybe take a little bit more yellow here, and I'm gonna just put that into this wetness here. Just like that. Not too much of it. Again, this is, fall color, so. And then I'm gonna take my brush, and I'm gonna put a bit of water across here like this. And I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that green. I'm just gonna sweep it across there. Sweep it across there. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of this light brown, gold, sienna maybe. And I'm just going to introduce that in there. You see, I'm not really pushing my brush around. I'm just sort of letting it, introducing it and just leaving it. Got a couple of little black chunks in here that I don't really want there. Okay, all right, so now here's your mission. Be patient. Walk away again. Leave it, okay? Don't come in here and start, fooling around with it and touching it, and just let it dry. Let those colors sink into the page. Patience. Watercolor is about patience, about allowing things to sit and become whatever it is that they're going to become. So right now I need you to just leave this and walk away. See if you can do it. I know you can. Okay, so I waited about an hour. This is almost dry. It's not quite dry though, okay? So I've been waiting pretty patiently. So what I want you to do now is wet this whole top part. So take a bigger brush, and we're almost done, all right? We're almost to the end. So if you've been doing this patiently with me, the reward is almost here, okay? It's almost here. We're going to take this green that's in the middle here, and we're going to add a little bit of orange to it. Should make it a little bit brown, okay? We're going to make some tree shapes now. So this is just getting the color onto the page, sort of randomly. I wouldn't say it's random, but a little bit randomly. And you're going to let it bleed into that water, okay? So this is wet on wet, very wet paint. The page was wet, wet on wet, all right? Let it bleed in there a little bit. And then we're gonna take a little bit of red, okay? Not a lot, just a little bit of red. And we're gonna put in some red highlights. That's it. Now, across the bottom here now, if you want, you can take your big brush, do that a couple of times. We're gonna get a little bit more intense with our color. Okay, put a little bit more intense color on there, and maybe even a little bit more of this, okay? And all of your motions in the bottom part here should all be left to right, okay? And now, yes, I'm gonna ask you one more time to just walk away, but before we do, we're gonna add a little bit of dark undergrowth here. So I've been using Payne's Gray, so I think I'm gonna keep using Payne's Gray, all right? And we're going to allude to some trees again. Again, big brush, big bold marks, okay? I think I'm gonna make a couple of highlights in here. So I'm gonna take a little bit of purple and take a little bit of this purple and just add, see there's some yellow on there, right? So, color theory would tell us if there's yellow, there has to be some purple. That's some pretty nice looking purple that I got going on in there. And maybe we're gonna take a little bit of this purple and just add it through our tree line there, okay? Any chunks like that we're gonna take off. And while we have this going, we're going to get a little bit of this green fairly intensely. Okay, so you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say walk away, okay? Just leave this. Come back when it's dry. Okay, so I've waited 24 hours. It's the next morning. I'm gonna move my coffee out of the way here. Anyways, it's the next morning, and this is what I have. So the way I want you to think of this is that this is all background. You see how there's some beautiful ghosty kind of colors in the background here. The front is, you know, it's not, this is just all background. It's very ghosty. When I say ghosty, that's how I often think of watercolor painting should be. It should be sort of ghosty. One of the reasons I have you using a larger brush is because it keeps you from sort of, what's a nice word? Fooling around, mucking around with it. So you can't really get in there and do a lot of detail stuff when you're using a larger brush. So I'm gonna get back in here to my dirty water. We're gonna use the larger brush again, and we're going to take any chunks out of it like that, but we're going to wet the whole page, okay? So this is another case where we're gonna wet the whole page. So we're working wet on wet, okay? So we're gonna have a very wet page. That's the first wet. And the second wet is how wet our paint's gonna be. This time, instead of mixing our paint up in the middle here, we're gonna go for a much more intense paint. So we're actually gonna take it right out of the well, wherever it is, okay? So I'm gonna use this sort of, this sienna, and this is gonna be my foreground, and you're gonna see I'm gonna put it on here very intensely this time. Very, very small movements, but still keeping the movements left to right, okay? Fairly intense amount of paint, and leave it on the page. And then rinse your brush out in your dirty, filthy water. And since I have yellow on there, I know I need purple. So I'm gonna pick up some purple, and I'm gonna make it much more intense. So I'm not going to mix it up in the middle well, I'm just gonna take it right out of here. And just a little bit of purple. Okay? Just a little bit of purple. And let that run wherever it's going to go to. Now, I'm gonna go to my yellow. And again, I'm going to mix it up fairly intense, which means I'm going to have a lot of pigment and not much, a lot of pigment and not much water. I say not much water, and you can see how much water is in there, right? Okay, so we're going to paint some trees, okay? But again, remember, we're keeping this sort of ghosty, but this is going to be much more intense than it was previously. I should say the color is going to be much more intense. Just let that flow to wherever it's going to go to, okay? You can see down here where this has already started to flow out, do its own thing down there. So now we're going to grab some orange. I'm going to take a little bit of water off this brush. I want the orange to be a little bit more intense. Okay. Keep doing that until I get some paint. it go wherever it's going to go to. You have to trust that the paint is going to not let you down. That's sort of what it is that I'm going for there. I'm going to take a little bit more of that water off. Grab some red this time. Just let it go. To trust that it's going to go. And I'm just going to put a little bit across here. That. And I'm going to let that's it now. You're going to get to a point in your, I was going to touch this, I just said that's it, and then I was going to touch it again. You have to get to a point in your career as an artist where you're okay with just leaving it and just walking away, okay? I want you to get a, like this is number 4 round watercolor brush. This is a Winsor Newton one. And get it wet, and we're going to pick up a little bit of Payne's gray here. Again, we're not mixing it up in the center here because we're going right to the well, or we're going right to the well that the paint is in, so that it's not getting thinned out too much, okay? So we're picking it up right from here. And that's it. I'm just gonna put in those couple of trees, and that's it. That's the whole painting. So I hope you learned something from this painting. I'll take a photo of it and when it's completely dry and add it here to the end. If you're currently a subscriber of mine, I thank you very much. And if you're not currently a subscriber of mine, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. Leave me questions and comments. You know, click like. It's really important for me to know that there's people out there watching what it is that I'm doing. Yeah, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you again next time.